America is the sole superpower of the world that has massive influence over other countries. Not only does it have the most powerful military, but it also has the highest economic growth. The American economy has a GDP of $20 trillion, which is 150% more than China. A massive gap indeed. What's even more remarkable is that the economic power of America is not new. Its economy has been globalized for the past hundreds of years. The central pillars that boost the American economy are technological development, land area, free market capitalization, and massive resources. But here comes a simple question then. These conditions also exist in other countries, then why aren't they as economically powerful as America? Have you ever wondered what makes America the economic powerhouse of the world? Join us today to know the answers to these questions. Today we will tell you how the American economic machine has dominated the world for the past 200 years, and what is the secret behind the tremendous economic growth of America. To find out how America became the dominating economic power, let's have a look at the brief history of its economic rise. A brief history of American economy. America was discovered in 1492 when an Italian explorer, Christopher Columbus, landed on the US shores thinking of it as a new world. Englishmen then colonized this newly discovered land. More and more people settled in America as it gained popularity as the New World. People started investing their money to create a new nation with the indigenous people already living there. The colonists and the new settlers started trading and importing goods via sea from European countries. Colonists grew economically and politically as more opportunities arose. In 1770, the colonists of America realized that it was their time for self-government. They wanted to get freed from English politics and their government, so they fought for their rights. As a result, the United States of America emerged on the map 6 years later, in 1776, and the Englishmen were forced to leave the country, taking their government with them. The Founding Fathers of America knew that the secret of the economic growth of any country is its robust political system. So they started working on creating the strongest political system in the world. Political stability. So how did America ensure its political system stays strong and robust? By implementing the presidential system. The presidential system stabilized the country by removing the risks of military coups, frequent civil wars, and dictatorship. This system also speeds up the decision-making of the government. It is one main reason why the American economy keeps flourishing. Let us mention here why Europe stayed behind America in economic growth. The European hierarchy feudal system, where lords and dukes held the most power, restricted social mobility because new opportunities like those created by the Industrial Revolution did not reach the common people. Unlike this system, America was a democratic country from the very start. Its inhabitants were educated, middle-class people who knew their democratic rights and values. South and westward movement. Cotton, which had previously been a small-scale crop in South America, expanded after the invention of the cotton gin machine. Farmers in South America purchased land from local producers who migrated westward. Large farms, aided by slavery, soon made some families extremely rich. But it wasn't just people in the South who were heading westward. Whole towns in Eastern America were occasionally evacuated and relocated to the Midwest's more productive farmland. The Western farmlands were fertile and promising in terms of profit. While Western colonists were frequently portrayed as highly independent and resistant to any state influence or meddling, they actually received a great deal of government aid, both directly and indirectly. The government built a highly advanced network of roads and waterways. This aided new settlers in their migration westward and subsequently helped bring Western farm goods to market. Technological breakthroughs and capital investment resulted in the establishment of new factories and job opportunities. When roads and waterways were built, transportation of goods was made easier and faster. Eventually, new marketplaces popped up on a regular basis. The introduction of steamboats resulted in faster and more affordable water travel, but the introduction of railroads had a much more significant impact, introducing new lands for development. Railroads, just like canals and highways, received considerable sums of government support during their construction stage years. However, unlike other methods of travel, railroads drew a significant amount of private investment from both the United States and Europe. Inventions. Because it was a democratic country, every opportunity for economic growth reached every last person of America, and every last person was willing to avail of this opportunity. They all were motivated for more innovations and inventions, and this is what paved the way for the economic growth of the country. When the Industrial Revolution began in Europe, it quickly spread to America. A vast number of industries were set up all in America, which led to a rise in the economy. By 1860, industrial work and manufacturing constituted more than 30% of the nation's income. During those days, 16% of Americans were already living in urbanized cities. But most of this industrial revolution was happening in North America. Every settler or immigrant that came from Europe stayed in North America. So North America was ahead in terms of development compared to South America. The southern part had rural areas spread over its vast landscape. The southern economy suffered further when the slave labor system was abolished in 1888. The cotton plantations in the South started making less profit after this massive change. On the other hand, the northern economy was rapidly growing due to the American Civil War. Industrialists were the main driving force behind the nation's development. They were leading influencers when it came to political and social affairs. After the American Civil War, a new wave of economic growth started called the Second Industrial Revolution. It was when oil, coal, and iron mines were discovered in Pennsylvania. Those were the days of technology growth and innovations. Electric lights, telephones, airplanes, typewriters, and railroad cars were introduced to the world. America was developing at the fastest pace compared to the rest of the world. Government involvement. Besides transportation, most politicians in early American days were hesitant to engage the federal government too strongly in the private sector. Small businesses, farmers, and laborers began pressing the government to act on their behalf in the late 19th century. This started shifting the previous attitude of the politicians. Progressives believed that government supervision of business practices was necessary to ensure competition. They also targeted corruption. The stock market crashed in 1929, which triggered the country's worst economic recession ever recorded in history. To address the crisis, President Franklin D. Roosevelt announced the New Deal. New Deal was a series of programs, financial forms, and regulations that focused on only one aim: restore prosperity to America. The New Deal of 1930 saw the most rapid expansion in government involvement in the economy. The New Deal period is responsible for many of the greatest fundamental laws and institutions that shape America's present economy. Federal influence in banks, farming, and public welfare was expanded under New Deal laws. It created basic wage and work hour rules, and acted as a stimulant for the growth of labor unions and industries, including automobiles, steel, and rubber. With government control, the New Deal was meant to encourage company leaders and employees to boost efficiency and productivity with the help of conflict resolution. New Deal programs pointed to a new power distribution among the three major economic countries at that time, which were America, Italy, and Germany. The American government participated actively in the economy during the war. It was during those days that this involvement was at its peak. The War Production Board was in charge of controlling the country's productive capacities in order to meet wartime requirements. The consumer product plants were converted to fulfill the military needs. Automakers created tanks and planes. In order to avoid increasing national income and shortage of consumer goods from causing inflation, the Office of Price Administration managed rents on some homes. It rationed consumer items that included everything from gasoline to sugar. This administration continued to prevent increased prices. Discovery of oil. All the previous factors are not enough to explain the American rise in the economy. These factors undoubtedly played a massive role in boosting the American economy, but they were not the only factors contributing. There is one other asset that helped America become the dominating economic power. Let's dive back into history. When the Industrial Revolution was on its rise in the 19th century, the nation's demand for fuel peaked. When oil reserves were found in Pennsylvania in 1859, Edwin Drake, an American businessman, introduced a new technique to extract oil. This new technique helped America become one of the world's major oil producers. Texas annexation in 1845 boosted America's overall oil production because it has one of the largest oil reserves. And because Texas is close to the Gulf of Mexico, It then became easier for America to exploit the oil reserves of the Gulf of Mexico. New oil reserves were also found in California and New Mexico. The US bought Alaska from Russia in 1867. Many people ridiculed America for this action at the time, but soon this decision bore fruit. Alaska was initially a producer and supplier of gold, but later in the 1960s, large oil and gas reserves emerged in this state. These oil reserves proved beneficial in the modern days for meeting the fuel demand of the American nation. In fact, from 2015 to 2019, Alaska was the major oil-producing source of the US. After technological development in the 20th century, automobile production increased. New modes of transportation were introduced, and all of them needed oil as fuel. This increased demand for oil around the world helped out America. America started trading its black gold to the whole world, so you can imagine the rate of its economic growth, while it is the primary oil-producing source. In conclusion, the strong American foundation is the reason why the American economic machine has dominated the world for the past 200 years. There is not a single nation at this time that can compete with the economic power and growth of the US because its economic growth does not depend on only one factor. What other factors do you think help the US boost its economy? Let us hear your opinions in the comment section below. If you found this video informative and enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button as well. Thank you for watching.